Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Balloons. We're doing military only. As the name implies, we can only use military type towers. So, pretty much anything with a gun or that looks tough, that's all we're using. Now, depending on what level you choose and what setup you go with, it can be challenging, but if you just play it smart, you'll be A-O good. So, how are all of you guys doing today? Hope you guys are having a good day today. Hope everyone's doing very well. Extremely well. Ultra well. That's what I hope for. So in the beginning, I'm just going to stall with some sniper monkeys so I get some more effective towers going up. I've been thinking. So I've been telling stories lately about school, and we've been kind of fast-forwarding through time. So we're ready for high school. I'm gonna be honest, not a whole lot happened.
Prepare for liberation.
I just kind of did my work, talked to my classmates, and then got out. Like nothing really stands out or rings a bell. It was more or less just normal. It's really like, as life goes on, less stuff seems to happen.
Awesome!
Not sure why that is. Now, I've told this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again because it sticks with me. This one time, senior year, is one of the few times where something actually happened. So I was in English class, and we were learning about stuff. Where commas go, where periods go. Real quick tangent. English is the one class from 1st grade all the way to 12th.
Sweet!
It gets a little tricky sometimes, but for the most part, that's the one class that stays relatively easy. Like math class, once you get to a certain point, they start adding letters, they start adding hieroglyphics. You gotta calculate the wind, you gotta calculate half a circle, the derivative, like, math gets crazy. And what's funny is my math teacher, his name is Mr. R. He looked like a heavier set version of Baldy. Now when I say heavier set, I don't mean fatter, I mean like more muscular. He was also a sports coach. But he was like a fit version of Baldy, literally. All he was missing was the green shirt, blue pants, and the ruler. And I'm sure at some point in college you'll see that impossible question.
Oh, yeah!
And then history is mostly note-taking, just memorization. But that also gets harder, because you learn about more complex things. Science also gets harder. You gotta do chemistry, you gotta mix some chemicals. Chemistry, or any science, also brings in math. There's formulas and stuff. And the deal with math, you gotta get it exactly right. Like if one plus sign, one parentheses off, whole thing's wrong. English, you got a little more leeway. Like yes, there are rules and regulations, but there's more workarounds. For example, there's something called the Oxford comma, where if you have a list, like let's say you have a grocery list, you got milk, eggs, butter, and syrup. You gotta do milk, comma, eggs, comma, butter. Now the last comma is actually optional. Some people use it, some people don't. I think why it's called Oxford is because that's the university where they had this debate. Do you need the final comma? Me, I put it, but Most people don't. And with English, not a whole lot changes. It's more or less the same thing over and over again. You know, period at the end of a sentence, put this here, put that there. It's the one class out of all the subjects that stays relatively consistent. It doesn't really get more challenging. Now, it's not just that. In English, you also read books. One of my favorites was The Great Gatsby. That was a good one. And you take quizzes on that. But for the most part, it's just, you know, what's the subject of this sentence? Name a verb. English was my strong suit. At one point in sophomore year, now I'm jumping all over the place. At one point in that year, I had 114%. It was that easy. Whereas everything else, it just seems to get incomprehensibly hard for no reason. Like, why? Why do we gotta learn all this complicated stuff? Okay, now I'm just talking out of my ass here. But the point is, English is relatively consistent. So sorry about that rant. Let's get back to the story now. So, you know, we're probably reading The Fall of the House of Usher or something. And I hear something very faintly down the hallway. I hear, "Mother trucker, I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna kick your butt. I'm gonna kick your glutes." And someone's screaming in the hallway. Like, someone's probably having a bad day. I'll just go. And it starts getting louder. And it keeps getting louder. Until it's right outside the door. The door swings open. And it's this girl whom I've never seen before, not even passing by in the hallways. Just random girl, don't know who she is. She looks like Donkey Kong. She's swinging her arms everywhere. Like, "Mother effer, I'm gonna kick you, I'm gonna kick you." And meanwhile, there's this really old security guard that's chasing after her. Now this security guard, he's a really cool dude. You know, he'd always say hi to you when you see him. He was always nice to the students. He was a good dude, basically. But he looked like he was pushing 95. So when he's trying to chase her, he's like out of breath. Not really running, he's more lightly jogging. Trying to keep up with her, but she's very far outrunning him. So he's trying to keep up, but he's failing. And this girl gets up to my desk. I sat in the front row. She grabs onto my desk and gets about an inch away from my face. And at the last second, the guard is able to pull her back. And it was kind of sad. He didn't have any handcuffs, but he had to, like, restrain her and hold her hands behind her back. And, like, wrestle her and push her back out of the classroom. I don't know if she was mad at me. I don't know if she was mad in general, and I was just the first person she saw. I don't know what was going on. All I know, I've never seen her before, and I've never seen her since. Now, I never got any definitive proof, but a big theory was that her boyfriend cheated, and she got, you know, emotional, to say the least. So that was the craziest thing that happened in high school to me. And it was very intense. Like, for the next 5 minutes, we just took a breather. Our teacher's like, "Hey, just take 5, just calm down. We'll start later." And then at one point, I was having lunch, and a fight broke out. These two dudes were fighting, I don't know why. And I didn't know they were fighting until everybody else saw it, because everybody turned around and was like, "Oh, damn." So, you know, I turn around, of course they're fighting. And the security guard that was on duty that time, He was kind of like a Paul Blart, not really in the best of shape.
Target that MOAB.
He slowly turns around, he looks at the fight,
Oh, yeah!
and he goes, God damn it, not again. And he just does this slow jog over to the fight and just breaks him up. Like it's just another Tuesday. Like he was more annoyed than anything. Alright, let's see what we got. Okay, so freshman year, I took a cooking class. Most of the time, it's called home ec, but here it was just called culinary, which I think makes a lot more sense. Because to me, when I hear home ec, I assume you're gonna teach us like life skills, like you know how to live. So culinary class or art, culinary arts, that was what it was called. That makes more sense. Anyway, there was a very interesting dynamic. The way the class worked, we were split into groups of 4. And I was the freshman. We had a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. So it created this odd dynamic, but we were all cool with each other. We all got along and we all liked working with each other. And we would cook once a week. So how they worked, we would do like a, not a project, but like an assignment. We would learn about a different type of cuisine. And then the next day, we would review the recipe. The following day, we would cook the recipe and get to eat it. And then Thursday and Friday, we would either take a test or do some miscellaneous work. Like, here's how this kitchen equipment works. Here's how to use a blender. Here's how to use a mixer. Now, when you cook, there's 4 roles. There's sous chef, just a regular chef. The sous chef is like the assistant. There's the cleaner, like do dishes, clean up at the end. I forget what the 4th person is, like maybe someone to read the recipe. I don't know who the 4th guy was. But one big rule was not to put knives in the sink, because when you have all those suds in there, you can't see in the sink. So it's easy to cut yourself. So I'm doing dishes, I reach in the sink, and someone left a knife in there, and I cut myself. And it was a pretty bad cut. I take my hand out of that sink, and there's just a nice little gouge on my finger. Now, I wasn't moving my hand that fast, so it must have been a really sharp knife for it to cut that deep. But anyway, you know, somebody noticed, like, yo, Matt, you're bleeding, and then the teacher saw it. He's like, alright, who did it? Who put this knife in the sink? And no one owned up to it. Like, ugh. Now, no one got in trouble per se, but you just did the whole, you know, we have this rule for a reason. I'm very disappointed. Please do better. See, it sucked that I got injured. I should have gotten some workers' compensation. And then later that year, in the same cooking class, some kid, we had refrigerators and freezers in the classroom. There was some kid, he left an orange soda in the freezer. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you want to make your soda colder faster, or your beer colder faster, you can put it in the freezer, because it'll speed it up. But if you don't take it out of the freezer fast enough, usually about 20-30 minutes, the liquid freezes and expands, the can does not. Therefore, kaboom, it explodes. And at some point, the teacher opens the freezer, and it looks like an orange slushy got merged. Just orange, half-frozen soda goop all over the inside of the freezer. Now this time, the kid owned up to it. It was someone in my group. He was the junior. He's like, yeah, I did it. Sorry. You're gonna clean this whole freezer from top to bottom. And he did. That was his punishment. He had to clean. And he got detention. Well, actually, no, I don't think he got detention. He just had to clean the freezer.
Target that BFB.
which still sucked. But overall, fun class, would take again.
Ha-ha!
Wait, we won already? I lost track of the balloons. Yeah, so good strategy for military only. Start with 2 or 3 sniper monkeys. Stall by your hero. You might lose a couple lives, but that's okay. In war, there are casualties. And then I would rely on mortars and submarines. Those are your best bets. Mortars, obviously, can set certain points to do big damage. And then subs, or if you can't do subs, planes, because they cover the whole map and spray damage. And then obviously as the round goes on, you just keep building and building and building. Well, that's it for today. If I think of any more stories from high school, I'll let you know. And there will be more balloons to come. The balloons never rest, because they are evil. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And, as always, do me a little favor. Have a great day.